Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Unemployables podcast. Today, we've got guest Ryan Holmer. The conversation went spectacularly. We went for just under an hour, and I think you're really going to enjoy hearing Ryan talk about his journey from being in university and his home of Canada, beyond the wall, to deciding to drop out and move to the Ukraine, all within about a 2-week period, and then his journey to get to where he is today as a consultant and doing freelance work and helping other people do the same all over the country. And probably, I would imagine he has clients all over the world. So I really think you're going to enjoy this conversation. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Become unemployable.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Unemployables podcast. Today, we've got special guest Ryan Holmer joining us from somewhere beyond the wall in the Great White North. And I have to do that because we're recording on a Sunday, and one of the second to last episode of Game of Thrones ever, I think, is tonight. It's pretty crazy after last week's scandal with all the Starbucks coffee cup in the shot. But anyway, I'm already getting down a rabbit hole. Ryan, thanks for joining us. We're excited to have this conversation with you. Go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story, man?
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for having me. I've been following you guys for a while. You know, we've been talking in the DMs a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I've been on this, entrepreneurship road now for 3 years. There's been no looking back. Where do you guys kind of want me to start? What made me kind of, leave from the employment job to, fending for myself, or?
Yeah. Let's take it from the top. Like, what was your 9 to 5? What kind of inspired you to leave?
Sure.
What you started doing? Kind of what got you where you are today? And I guess what you do today too, because not everyone knows.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, I was working at a wealth management firm in Canada, and I was in university at the time, actually, studying economics and finance, etc. And I had a lot of friends who were into this thing called drop shipping. I'm sure you guys know what it is. So I started to do it part-time. I made some money. It wasn't too much initially, but it was weird. Like, as soon as I started making money, I dropped out within the week. Like, it was like a horrible choice, but I dropped out that same week. I quit my job. I moved to Ukraine with, I think I had like $800 left in my bank account. Obviously not the best choice, but it worked out for me. I ended up making, a decent amount of money with the store. I sold it. And then I kind of fell into the sort of, consulting route now, which is what I'm doing now, where, I help local businesses solve whatever problems they're facing. But yeah, like, the big catalyst for me was my big why. So like, the whole reason why I kind of quit and went out on my own was because I wanted to travel, see the world, etc. So when I started making a little bit of money, it was kind of like that kind of nudge towards, doing what I wanted to do. So, I always say it's important to have a big why, and, my why was traveling. So that's what kind of pushed everything towards where I am right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why didn't you stop and try to make a little bit more money first? Were you just like so over it that you're just like, that first like crack in the door opened up and you were just through it?
Yeah, I think that's what it was, to be honest. Like, I wanted to kind of leave, way before that, because by nature I'm pretty entrepreneurial. So, I like to, work for myself. So it's like, as soon as I saw like a little bit of sort of, I guess you can call it validation. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm sold. I'm doing it. So I told my parents, I'm like, I'm moving to Ukraine. And then like, it was funny because like in between the time where I dropped out of school and moved to Ukraine, it was literally 2 weeks.
That's
like
hilarious.
no planning, nothing. Booked a flight, gone.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was gone.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was maybe not the best choice at the time, but it worked out. But yeah, it was just funny. It's like, hey, Mom, I'm moving to Ukraine. And she's like, what? Like, she's like, what the hell? And then like two weeks later, I was gone.
Why Ukraine?
Well, to be honest, at the time I was a single man, and I'd heard stories about the beauty of the Ukrainian femininas. So I was like, you know what, let's just go see how it is. And it was cheap too, right? And at the time I was big into not pickup, but like, I'd followed this online pickup guy like Roosh like years ago. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go see how it is. And, I love Ukraine. Like, Ukraine's still today one of my favorite places.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, I've talked to Kyle Trouble, guy who owns Cello Oils, for everyone who doesn't know, and he's lived out in Kiev for a while, and he absolutely loves it. It's like the more I talk to guys who have been out there, the more I want to go.
Yeah. I actually met Kyle and Sam. I think it's like Static Sam or Stoic Sam, whatever. On
Yeah,
Twitter. Yeah, I actually met those two guys in Kiev. They're both good guys.
yeah, I'd like to meet Kyle one day.
That's cool. So you were able to make money from a drop shipping store. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think it was that enabled you to be successful? Because was that your first ever shipping store, or did you have a couple before that failed and you kept moving forward?
Honestly, like it's not like a kind of like a rags to riches story where like, I
Sure.
had 10 stores before that. It was honestly my first store. I think it was just a big stroke of luck. Um, I was selling bikinis actually,
Of
like
course.
bikinis, and yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's because I started not. I think it was like around January, maybe a little later than that. I can't remember the exact time, but I was like, hey, summer's coming up. Maybe I should sell bikinis. So I kind of just fell into that.
Nice.
Now, you said you had a 2-week window from where you dropped out of school, said, all right, I made nice little paycheck drop shipping. Now I'm going to go ahead and move straight to the Ukraine. And now we know the reason why you went to the Ukraine. Now, what brought you back to the Great White North?
Yeah. So I sold my store, and then I didn't sell it for a ton of money. I'm just going to be transparent here. I sold it for like 20 grand. So it wasn't a ton of money. I kind of partied my way through Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Poland, etc., Serbia, and then at the end of it, I didn't have much money left. So I was like, shit, I have no money left. I have no, asset producing income. So I was like, I'm going to fly back to Canada. I'm going to live with my dad for a bit and kind of reevaluate things. So that's why I came back with, the last few scrapes I have. I think I had like maybe 2 or 3K left when I came back to Canada. So it went down pretty fast.
Must have partied like a maniac, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Especially because like it's hard to blow 20 grand in Eastern Europe over a few months. I mean, it's really hard.
But you did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say in Eastern Europe, you're spending that kind of cash and you had one hell of a party.
Yeah, it was fun. And I was like traveling back and forth because I had a friend in Serbia, right? Who lived in Belgrade. So I was going back and forth between Ukraine, Poland, Serbia. So it was pretty crazy for a few months. Yeah.
So you get back from Europe, get back to Canada, moving with your dad with a few thousand left in your bank account. What'd you do next? Like, can you kind of walk us through the steps from getting from there to where you are today?
Yeah, so I went back to Canada and I was trying to figure out. He lived like kind of sort of up north, like sort of in the woods. So I didn't really have much distractions around me. So I was trying to figure out how I can make money online. So I looked at the skills that I had, and from running like a drop shipping store, one of those main skills was paid traffic, so Facebook ads. So I was like, how can I make money with paid traffic fast? And then I learned about this guy. So his name is Alexander Vitkin, and he runs this, I don't know, like a Facebook group where he basically teaches guys how to make money selling services to local businesses. So I was like, hey, I'm good at Facebook ads. I can probably help some businesses with their paid traffic. So that's kind of how I fell into this whole consulting thing, sort of by accident, because my friend at the time, Ben, who's my business partner now, he was in that group, I believe. I can't remember, but he kind of told me about it. So I was like, okay, sweet, that sounds good. And that's sort of basically what pushed me towards consulting was, sort of like a spur of the moment kind of suggestion by a friend. So I just took the skills I had and applied it to a different business model.
Yeah, that's it's super interesting. We've had a bunch of these conversations now. One of the questions I usually ask is, do you feel like you stumble into the next business thing, or do you feel like it's obvious what comes up next? But almost everyone if they've answered it directly, they've said they've stumbled into it. And then, hearing your answer, same thing, like there's a level of preparedness and having the skills, and then just being ready when the opportunity comes. So that's it's cool to hear that reinforced with everyone that we're talking to.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's about, right? I mean, like, I didn't plan to do consulting. It's just one of those things where you took what you already knew and you applied it to something else because you just wanted to change, right? Or you're at a point in your life where, anything would do. And, it was the first thing that came up, right? So that's kind of what happened for me, where I was at a low point. I saw this kind of door opening up. I took my current skills and I was like, you know what, let's just try it and see what happens.
That's cool.
Well, we kind of fell into it that way ourselves. I mean, we're no different than any of the other guests, because here we are, each, the four of us, we all own separate businesses, and we kind of stumbled into the consulting when we created the Unemployables.
Yeah.
It seems to be the common theme among pretty much every entrepreneur we've came across.
Yeah. I mean, I think all these entrepreneurs want that, like that one thing, which is like the freedom, right? Like we all want freedom, how we just get there. Like we take different routes, but we all want the same thing.
Absolutely. Freedom to not have someone breathing down your neck, telling you what to do, when to go to work and all that. And then I think the other side of that coin that a lot of people starting out don't see is the responsibility. You have the freedom to do whatever you want. So it's more important that you don't do whatever you want, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy the consulting stuff? Like, is this something you see yourself 10 years from now you'll still be doing, or do you kind of have ambitions to do something different, leverage this to make money, and then build a dream out of that?
Yeah. So to be honest, I don't like client work now. When I was starting, I loved it. I was like, oh yeah, I'm making money, helping clients, whatever. Whereas now, in 10 years, I see myself doing the same thing, but from a higher level. So instead of, like I don't do much client work now, to be honest, but I see myself, being in a further out role, like maybe like a shareholder in various different consulting businesses. Because like, I'm trying to think of when I'm like 50 or 60, right? Like, do I want to be doing client work and this kind of stuff? No, I want to be, outside of the business, still getting checks from that business, right? So every year my goal is to, separate myself from the business as much as possible. So whether it's hiring more account managers, more, operations managers, CEOs. So in 10 years, probably not, no, to be honest.
Yeah, I sympathize with that. I started out doing freelance work 5, 6, I don't even know how many years ago. And then I left my job, like a little bit over a month ago. And I was like, all right, well, we've got a little bit of an income gap, because I'd done like 0 client work in the last year for some personal.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, well, time to get back on this. And I landed a few clients, and I'm like, damn, I don't want to do this. This is not the kind of work I want to be doing like every day, like managing somebody's social media, like that kind of stuff. It's draining to me now. It used to be like super exciting because I was younger. It was my first kind of experiences with that. It was like, oh, cool money. Now I'm like, yeah, I should hire somebody way cheaper than me to do the work for me.
Yeah. Like doing client work, like it's good when you're beginning, but it sort of is grunt work a little bit sometimes, right? Because like it's just a pain in the ass. So it's much better to, hire someone, take a little bit less money, but not have the headache of doing everything yourself.
Yeah, and I feel like my interests have expanded or evolved. Like 5 years ago, I was really excited about running paid traffic for somebody or creating a video for them from scratch. And now I'm just like, those aren't the same things that excite me anymore. Like the growth have pushed me beyond that, I feel like.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, like even 2 years ago, I was, I loved doing like, e-com ads, Facebook ads, et cetera, and diving into the ad campaigns, looking at metrics. Whereas now I'm like, this is not interesting. Like I'd much rather be traveling and have someone else do that for me. So that's just my, opinion with that.
Now, what would you say brought you to that determination when you reached the point of, client work just really isn't banging my drum anymore? How did you?
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. How did you know that you were ready to scale up at that point to start hiring out your client work?
Yeah. So it's, I was just looking forward again, like, let's say when I'm 50 or 60, right? I was like, if I want to be doing this at 60, I can still do it now. But when I looked forward, I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this. So how can I make myself do less client work? So that's like, I've always been like a forward thinker. Like I plan things. So I was like, well, aside from obviously leaving my job and everything, I didn't plan that, but
or your move to Kiev, you didn't plan.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe it's over the past like year or so, really, I've been looking forward, being like, when I'm 60, do I still want to be doing this, grinding, doing the daily client work? And I was like, hell no. So how can I make myself, get money while not doing this? So I was like, naturally, that means over the years, I have to separate myself from the business, like the day-to-day operations, right? Make myself more like a shareholder as opposed to like a manager, right? So I think that's the big distinction is, and I think there's even a big distinction between CEO and shareholder. So I'm trying to go right now from manager to CEO, and then from CEO to like a shareholder where I get checks, I get money, maybe I give my advice, but aside from that, I'm not involved in the day-to-day.
Make a board vote and be
exactly
back on your own after that. I like
yeah,
it.
exactly.
Yeah, our first episode with a guy named Kevin Eckmark, he said much the same thing. He's been a CEO of a small kind of agency, and he realized that he hates managing people and he's terrible at it. He was like, I want to move. I made the move from being a CEO to a business owner where I can just make money and not have to worry about managing people and all the drama that comes with that, and just make the business decisions, because he was like, I'm just terrible at managing people. And it's cool to see people identify that in themselves and make the necessary adjustments to still profit pretty generously off of it.
Yeah. I mean, like, if I'm being honest, I actually like dealing with, like, I like managing staff. I enjoy kind of like nurturing and fostering like a staff where they become skilled. But if I have to compare, my love for training staff and my love for traveling and freedom, I pick freedom every day. Right. So, again, like I like training staff. Like if I hire someone new, I love training them. I love managing, but I prefer freedom over that any day of the week. Right. So it's just like your priorities, but yeah, I totally get what he's talking about.
Yeah. What have been some of the biggest hurdles you've faced as a business owner in like the last year or so?
Yeah, I think, me personally, it's taken on too much. Like, I think I was looking a few days ago and like, I think I was running like 4 or 5 businesses. And I was like, this is the thing is like, once you start getting money coming in, you start spending more money on other businesses. And then you look forward like 6 months or 7 months, whatever. And you're like, I'm taking on way too much right now. So I think the biggest thing for me has been reducing the amount of work I'm taking on while increasing my income. I think that's like a hard balance to kind of find, right? Because again, like when you're making money, you think you're like almost invincible, right? You're like, yeah, I'm making all this money so I can do all these businesses. And then you start these businesses and in a few months, you're like, yeah, this is way too much. So you start to scale back a little bit. So I think the hardest thing for me the past year or two has been finding a good balance between, increasing my income while decreasing the amount of time I spend working. So, but again, like I'm 27, right? So I'm not gonna, stop working right now and retire. Like I would never do that. I'd be bored. And I think men need challenges, right? So it's been finding like that good balance between, challenging myself, making more money, but not overworking myself.
Yeah, there's a big difference in giving yourself a challenge, because you're right. Men need challenges. Men always perform better when they have something to either push forward or push against. They're all, whenever they have a metric that they have to measure up against, they always do better. But I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs do that, and like what you said, take on too much, and they think, well, I'm going to increase my revenue by increasing the revenue streams. And so they go from 1 revenue stream to 5, and next thing you know, they're just bogged down to burn out. And so I think, what you're doing with scaling it back while increasing the revenue of the existing streams without opening up new ones, probably the wisest thing any entrepreneur can do.
Yeah, it is. It's just hard to do sometimes, right? I mean, it sounds nice in theory, and that's what I've been trying to do. But yeah, like that's definitely the ideal thing, right? But sometimes like you have to put in like those, 3-4 months of hard grinding work to get to that result, which is kind of what I'm in right now. Like I think most days I wake up at 6 and I go to bed around, 9 or 10. So it's like a 15-hour day almost. So, but like you have to hope that you're setting yourself up for the future, right? Like in like a few months, you'll be done with that and it'll pay off, right? So there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, to be honest. But
yeah, well, and there's always the risk that, if you're trying to maximize profit and reduce costs, there's always the risk it doesn't work or it backfires on you in some way too, exactly. Right? Like you can put in all this hard grinding work and it can still just totally blow up in your face and be a failure. But
exactly.
Have you ever experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had businesses where I've spent, months working on them or weeks of hard grinding work, and they haven't panned out for sure. But I still think that like the risks outweigh, or, it's like two options here. Like you can put in the risk or like put in the time and risk, not succeeding, or you can not put in the time and, like it's guaranteed that you won't succeed. Right. Because I just think that once you've tasted freedom, even if it involves more work, like you'll put in the work to get more freedom, right? Like that's what it's about. Like this whole equation, like all this time I'm putting in, all this money, it's all going to lead to freedom. So if I risk, a few months of my time working extra hard and something doesn't succeed, the risk was still worth it, in my opinion. I mean, I learned something new, right? Like you always learn from this kind of stuff. Like when you fail, you learn. It's super cliche, but like when you fail at a business, like you definitely learn, like, right? Like you learn to improve like your processes, like you learn to improve your offer creation or something, right? Like there's always something you learn.
Yeah. I think I said something about this yesterday on Twitter. Everyone always gets wrapped up in the ROI. They want the return on their investment. But like you just mentioned, a lot of times the reason they're not seeing an ROI is because they haven't gone big enough on the eye.
Yeah.
And so, they're not putting in enough to get out what they're wanting. So they're thinking, I'm going to put in just a little bit. I'm going to grind for 2 or 3 months and I'm going to be set for 3 years. And that's not the case. You got to dig in. You got to put your nose on that grindstone. And a lot of people aren't willing to go that deep down the rabbit hole. And I think that's what separates a lot of entrepreneurs from the 9-to-5er.
Oh yeah. I mean, like it's like sorry. I was just going to say, like, it's like a basic equation, right? Like your inputs equal your outputs, right? Like if you don't want to put in the time, if you don't want to put in the money, you're not going to get the result, which is like your success, your money, et cetera. So, yeah.
I think that's the allure of drop shipping for a lot of people, right? Like up front, it seems like minimal investment, like you don't have much, if any, liability other than just being full of shit and lying to people on occasion, which not all drop shippers do, but a lot of them do that. And then you can create an info product and sell beginning drop shippers on that. And there's just all sorts of,
yeah.
pitfalls.
I mean, like, yeah, like I just think that,
but it's not as easy as they make it seem.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, like, I just think that like what you're saying, like drop shipping attracts like the worst kind of people too, right? I mean, like if you look at most drop shipping ads, it's mostly like these young kids in flashy cars, flashy
rented supercars.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And like, you never know. So I think most guys who are doing drop shipping are like the younger guys who want that quick buck. But I think like the biggest problem with drop shipping, in my opinion, is people who start those businesses, like they have horrendous customer service. Like they treat their clients like an extra buck, right? Like, here's what I'll say is like, I'm not like an e-commerce kind of wizard, right? Like I did one store, but within that store, I had 2 customer service agents. So I was focusing on customer service, whereas like most people, like they will start a store and they will completely forget about customer service. They'll get in for that quick buck, they'll leave. And most of these e-com guys even forget about taxes, right? So like it's just like the young kids who want quick money. That's mostly what it is. I'm not saying it's all what it is. Like some guys are obviously crushing it, but mostly it's guys looking for a quick buck who don't care about their clients, right? That's just my opinion for the overall like the average, I would say, like the average dropshipper.
Yeah. What do you think were the most important things you learned from your drop shipping experience that you took into this freelance work that you do?
I think again, like the biggest thing I learned was that client satisfaction is the most important thing. Because I had those 2 agents working, my return rate was very low. Like I think it was like, I don't remember what it was, but it was very low. So what I kind of did is I took that into what I'm doing right now, where like customer service matters, right? So, now I'll proactively kind of reach out to clients, say, how are things? How can I help you improve your results? How can I, improve my offer, right? So that was the biggest thing I learned about dropshipping, because like the margins aren't very big in dropshipping, but if you improve your customer service, those margins increase a little bit because you have less returns, you have more happy customers, et cetera. So that was the biggest thing, honestly, was that client satisfaction, customer service is, one of the pillars of any successful business.
100% agree with that. Every time, that's something that we try to do with Ground Shark. anytime anything goes wrong, right? We once shipped a package to a guy without one of the bags of coffee in it. Like we just forgot to put it in,
Yeah.
and he ordered 5 bags, and we only gave him 4. And so he emailed us. So we refunded that bag. We shipped it to him, and then gave him another couple. I then gave him free shipping on his next order. And now, I mean, since then he's ordered 2 or 3 times past. It's like he's a customer for life. And not only has he ordered for himself, he just ordered another bag to send, or he ordered 4 bags to send to his father-in-law as a gift. So it's like customer service matters.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I think my only experience with like things like that is like, I can't remember what it was, but I bought something online and it was cracked or whatever. So they sent me, a replacement, but they also sent me like, a free gift card for like $100 on top of that. So, and because of that, like I've been a customer for life, right? Like what you're saying, like if you go over and above what's expected, like someone will be your customer forever.
Yeah.
And
And
it doesn't cost you much.
And just to that point, what I've noticed with it is they always say go the extra mile, and I stand by that. But that extra mile it's so simple. It doesn't need to be something huge. It doesn't have to be over the top. It can just be something so simple and just another step. It doesn't even have to be a whole mile. It's just one little step, a little bit farther than everyone else, and like you're good.
Yeah. No, I mean, here's what I'll say is like I have as you guys know, like a monthly kind of coaching group. There was this guy who joined and he didn't know paid traffic, so he was like, "Okay, I'm going to go buy like your paid traffic course. I just paid for this, but I'm going to go buy this." So I was like, "You know what? Here, just take it for free, right? Like take my Facebook ads course for free." And he was super happy, right? But it didn't cost me anything, or if it did, it was like a low kind of investment. But it's all about creating like those, 100, 1,000 fans for life. That's all you need as a business.
Yeah.
Yeah. We, with Rugged Legacy, I had a customer who their order got sent to the wrong address. So someone was out there enjoying their free beard balm, and they turn around and say, "Well, I'll order it again. I'm just going to reship you the order and throw in an extra cologne," which it doesn't.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not losing anything out of that. And since then, that guy's pretty much paid my bills with his recurring orders.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man. That's awesome.
I'm digging it. He's paying my bills. Every time I turn around, he's placed another order. So it was something simple. Just, okay, don't worry about paying for one thing.
Yeah, just a small investment on your part. Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy to me when businesses won't do those simple things. Like all it takes to get a customer for life is to do something so simple like that. Like throw in an extra cologne, throw in an extra bag of coffee, give them free shipping, give a free Facebook ads course. Like it's so simple. And then you've got these huge companies that forget that kind of stuff, like AT&T. Like those bastards. Yeah. It's like they just don't care. Like they've gotten so ruthless or forgetful of where they started, or if they ever treated their customers well, that like they don't realize how valuable it can be to have. Because not only are you just providing good customer service, you're creating essentially a brand ambassador. Like those people, because they're so overwhelmed by the positive experience, they're going to go out and tell other people about it. Like they become an influencer without you having to pay them to be an influencer, or you're paying them, $5 in free product to create this person that's out there in the world advocating for you and your brand, which is underrated.
Yeah, it's because these businesses get so big, right? They lose track of what matters, customer service, client satisfaction. But what I will say is my girlfriend ordered this store here called Ardennes. I don't know if you guys have it in the States. No? She ordered some, stuff online, and when her package came, they had like a handwritten note in there, like more coupons, just small little things that she didn't expect, but that, made her a customer for life because she's always buying from Ardennes now, right? So some big companies are starting to kind of get it. They're like, you know what? And I think they're getting it because like some margins are like decreasing, right? So they're like, you know what, shit, we have to focus now on, customer service. But yeah, like it's something that most big companies forget about, but it's the most important thing, right? As you were saying.
Right. Well, and what's crazy is, when your company gets that big, it's not like you don't have the resources to do it, but
You have
at the
more
same-
resources to do
right.
it.
Yeah.
But they're probably doing a little bit of what we talked about earlier, where they're trying to maximize their revenue and cut their costs
Yeah.
at a cutthroat level. Because these companies, these huge companies, could easily hire a team of people to just handwrite thank you notes for every new subscription or whatever product sale they get,
Yeah.
and they'd be creating positive investment for their brand long term. But right, they've passed the point of no return where it's all about turning an extra dime for shareholders or the board or whoever it is, and they just lost track of what's
And see,
important.
and that's not even all that complicated to do either. With some of the products that, because I've been handling all my own shipping, and I've recently hired a fulfillment center. And so what I'll do every month is I'll probably write 300 to 400 handwritten thank you notes, and I just ship them for $2-3 to my fulfillment center, and I pay an extra 25 cents for a pick pack for them to throw it into the envelope.
Yeah.
But
I
it's
mean, it's
still
nothing.
handwritten with that personal touch.
Yeah. It's nothing on your end there, right? Like if you spend an extra, 10 minutes or extra $10 on one customer, I mean, that he'll pay you back over his lifetime, right? Like your customer lifetime value will be so high.
For sure. Ryan, what are some things you're not very good at? Like some things that you outsource, or you maybe you're totally open, like, hey, I just suck at this.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to think right now. I mean, I
You
don't know.
don't
I
suck
think
at anything.
He's good at everything.
no. I think it's like the design aspect, maybe. I mean, I'm a horrible designer. And maybe I would say that's probably the big thing. Like, like I can create like a shell of a website or like a funnel, for example, but the actual, like the design aspects, I'm way out of my depth on that. Like I'm like a 4-year-old. Like I draw like stick figures and stuff on Canva, right? Like I could never do that. So I would outsource that every time.
So you just feel like you don't have a good eye for design too?
Yeah, like I haven't spent the time to learn it, right? Because I've been too busy with like sales, paid traffic, copywriting, whatever. So I haven't focused on that at all. And I think that, like another big thing is too is I've been pretty bad lately at taking time off for myself, right?
Yeah.
So that's been a pretty bad one, to be honest.
Yeah, I get that. All the companies I've worked for they all had like unlimited PTO policies for the most part while I was there.
Okay.
And I rarely took time off. It was bizarre. And then towards the end of this last company I worked for, they implemented like, oh, you only get 20 days off or whatever. And all of a sudden I was like, screw you guys. I'm going to use every single day. And I would take like maybe a week off a year to go on a trip with my wife. And now I was like, well, taking 3 weeks off this year just because like, I'm not just going to let them get away with having that, because it's not like it would roll over. They're going to pay me out of it or anything. So
yeah, I hate when companies do that, where it's like you have to use like your 4 or 5 weeks before the year ends, and like it doesn't roll over, right? But yeah, that's a pain in the ass, man.
yeah, I think that's one of the curses of entrepreneurship, though, because you, as your own boss or working for yourself, you essentially have unlimited PTO.
Yeah,
But
basically,
if you're not working, you might not be making money at the same time.
which is why people need systems, which is what I've been doing for past while, I guess, year now, where like I'm trying to create systems so that if I work, I still get paid, which is basically what I do now. Like maybe I send like an email a day. That's basically what I do now, with my main business. I mean, but yeah, I mean, like creating those systems is crucial after the first few months.
For sure. What are some of the things you wish you had known when you started? Like when you were in university, before you even dropped out, and then after the whole Eastern Europe thing, like what do you wish you'd known?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, and this is what I always say to people who ask me the same question, is when you're starting. So before you're making like 10K a month, like 100K a year, whatever, don't focus on vanity tasks. And by vanity tasks, I mean like websites, fancy pictures of you in suits, fancy logos, all that kind of shit. All that matters that when you're beginning is like the revenue generating activities. So it depends what business you're in, but like, let's take mine, for example, like consulting. Nobody cares if you have a website about your fancy logo, about you in a suit, on like your profile, right? Like all they care about is, can you solve their problem? So all that you need to do at the starting is get your offer in front of as many faces as you can, right? If you're like a product business, the only thing that matters is, getting that first proof of concept. So proof that people love your product, right? Nobody really cares in the beginning, how beautiful your website is, right? Is your product good? Do people love it? And if so, will they kind of promote it for you for free, right? So I think the biggest thing that I wish I had known, because I spent a few months doing this, was, when I was beginning, not drop shipping, but like consulting, I spent a few months working on like a super sexy website. And I wanted to find like a guy to take, pictures of me in a suit, but none of that matters in the beginning. All that matters is your offer good? Is your service good? Is your product good? And do people love it? And does it solve their problem, right? Like that's all that matters, to be honest.
Yeah, I love that you called those vanity tasks. 'Cause, man, that's so true.
Yeah.
That's exactly what
is.
they are.
It really is what they are. I mean, you look at some of the people who are making plenty of money on just these plain, basic template Gumroad accounts, and they're making $200,000 and $300,000 a year, and it's got nothing to do with the site or the design of the product page. It's just got to do with the value of the product being put in front of many people as possible.
Exactly. And I think the best like online sales letters that have ever been written have been like just plain basic white pages with black text, right? Like all you have to do is show that your offer solves their problem or, improves their life in some way, and you'll get sales. Like it's not important whether like it's super sexy website, right? Like that's a big problem. I've coached guys, I've told them this and they still don't understand. Like they'll still spend weeks working on a website because it feeds their ego, right? Like it makes them look better because they'll be like, hey, look at this sexy website I have. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, it's a form of procrastination. That's all it is.
Exactly. That's partially what it is, right? Yeah, because they feel like they're more accomplished, right? Like, look at this website I made. I did all this work, but then I have no money still, right? Like, if you look at my landing pages, like they're super basic, but I get the results for people, so that's all that matters.
Like the only reason you should be focused on building a website if you're trying to make money is if you're like a software developer and you're building a web app to make money.
Yeah. Or you're making like $500K a month and you have the time to invest in a website or if
you're making $500K a month, you can just do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever the hell you want.
At that point, I don't even care what you do.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't do listen to this podcast if you're making 500.
No, if you're making $500K a month, I want you to come and show me how to do that. I'm going to be on your podcast and learn from you.
I will say that like when I'm like right now lately, my next task is learning business to business sales.
Okay.
I think that and Facebook ads are the two things that are going to really take Ground Shark in the right direction right now. And I have absolutely 100% been procrastinating the living fuck out of that by working on my website. Like, got all these other things that I'm like, oh, I need to do this and this and this. And like, I don't need to do any of that. What I need to do is start making calls.
Yeah, man. How much money, how much money you would make if like you just stocked your coffee in like all of, like the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools and like in Canada, like the States, for example, you can make so much money.
Yeah. And that's actually, I was thinking the other day, I had the idea, like, why have I not just been going around to every single open mat around Denver and just dropping coffee off, just samples for everybody. And then like, oh, well, I can't train anyway right now because I got a broken rib, but like I can still make calls and go. So like
still milking that damn rib.
All of your excuses are lies.
I saw my coach yesterday for the first time since I broke it. He gave me a big hug and it lit it right the fuck back up, and it's hurt since.
That sucks.
So bad. It's like I can't even get a hug.
I broke mine years ago, and it's a pain in the ass, man.
Oh, yeah.
Did yours like heal so it's like pointing out?
No, it wasn't that bad of a break, but I could feel it probably a few months after. Like it was pretty bad.
I'm probably looking at 2 more months. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but
Anyway.
it's like the same thing for Jeff too. Like I was getting like my beard trimmed the other day at like a barber shop, and he upsold me on like some beard lotion, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all these things people don't think about. Like you could go to like all these kind of salons and just pitch your product. You make so much money.
Yeah, I've actually had several barber shop owners and salon owners just this week reach out to me, which I know that means my product is good.
Yeah.
they've been reaching out to me and hitting my DMs and my email saying, hey, we would love to have your products on our shelves. So
It's smart, man. It's smart.
this week I'm sending one pack to Indiana. This young lady just opened up her salon, and she's wanting to have 100% Rugged Legacy pomade, Rugged Legacy beard balm, Rugged Legacy mustache wax. And then, of course, as I'm releasing more products this year, of course, I'll be sending those samples to her as well.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I'm exactly like Nick in that I haven't just driven down the street to a local barber and said, hey, but I've been focused so much on the expanded market rather than on the local market, which
because it's sexier. Because it's sexier, right? But
well, yeah,
yeah.
and you need to focus on both. But I mean, there's really no excuse for Nick or me, either one, to not have driven 5 minutes down the street and said, "Here, put my shit on your shelf."
And you know how, it would be so easy. Like if you're like, yeah, I'm a local guy who runs this business. He's a local shop. Like it would be, oh my God, it'd be so easy.
Oh yeah,
like,
and it would be instant.
Yeah,
and
yeah. Like
from my house, I probably have 37 barber shops within, a mile.
Yeah.
so I'm just
leaving
I'm just leaving all that damn money on the table. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and these barbers are good salesmen. Like if they like it, like he put it into my beard and I was like, this smells good. And he was like, yeah. And he kind of upsold me on it. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll take it. I mean, like, it's like a super easy sell because I'm in the buying mood, right? Like I want to look good. I want to look nice, right?
$30 for a haircut. So
yeah, exactly. And if he tells you that this is good stuff, he puts it in your beard and I see after a fresh cut that it looks good. I'm like, I associate my good looks with like this new product, right? Like it's just such an easy sell.
Yeah, my big problem is like even now I haven't been using my own products.
Okay.
Been testing out products for Johnny Noble that he sent me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm doing some recon for him, and today, I've been doing construction in the living room, so mine is just poofed out. I'm just really trying hard not to reach over and grab some Rugged Legacy beard balm.
This podcast is sponsored by.
Yeah. Quick infomercial real quick. I was actually gonna compliment you on your beard, Ryan. It looks very well manicured from where I'm sitting.
It's funny. It's like 3 months ago I got it trimmed, and I told the guy, I was like, just keep the same like the same kind of volume, right? And he takes a razor and goes and makes it super like slim on the sides. He just ruined it for months. I was petrified, but it's slowly getting back to form. So
it looks sharp, man.
Thank you.
What are some of the biggest failures you've experienced?
None. I never fail. No, nice. I mean,
that's it. Case closed.
Case closed. Yeah.
What are we doing here? Close that.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, like it was those small businesses that I thought would be good, and so here's something that I always say is the biggest mistakes I've ever made in terms of businesses have been when I created an offer first and forced it on the market, right? So like maybe I created something that I thought they would like. I spent months working on it and then I forced it on the market and they said, you know what, screw you, right? So, and I think most businesses fail because of that. Like I would say almost 100% fail because they create their offer first and they force it on a market that doesn't really need their offer or doesn't want their offer. So all the failures in my life have been because I've done that, right? I skipped a step. I got, a little bit high on my own supply, as they say, and then failed that way, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I just finished reading a book called Millionaire Fastlane. Which
I read that one, yeah.
A terrible, cheesy title, but it's actually a really great book. And the one thing that really stuck with me towards the end is where he talks about how it's selfish to think about starting a business in terms of money, which is like no one had ever kind of presented that to me. And in my mind, it was always like, okay, well, how can I make money? This idea could make some money. This is a great idea. That's going to make a lot of money. And he kind of positioned it as like, no, like that's the wrong way to think about it. You shouldn't be thinking about in terms of money. You should be thinking in terms of what do people need? Like what needs are there? And then how can I fill that? And that ultimately will bring you money. but it's kind of an indirect way of getting there. And that, man, that was really profound for me, transitioning from thinking about money to, what are the needs? Where are the needs? How can I fill those needs?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds cliche, but like the biggest thing to do is to focus on their problems, right? So does a market have a need for my product, or is a market doing something wrong where they need,
Right.
where like my service, whatever, can solve that problem, as opposed to saying, you know what, here's my offering, take it, or you're an idiot for not taking it, right? Because that's like the quickest way to fail.
Right. Yep. Yeah, that's good. Well, I'm running low on questions, guys.
we are coming up just under an hour here. I always like to ask this, and Jeff and Dan always laugh at me. But if there was one thing that like philosophically kind of changed your paradigm when it comes to business ownership or entrepreneurship or anything like that, what was it? Like if there's one thing that you would leave people with?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is kind of what drove me into entrepreneurship. And, I saw my dad struggle. Like he has a good job. Like he's an architect, but he's like, in his 40s now. He's still working. He has no plans of retiring. So my whole thing with entrepreneurship is I like to, hunt for my own food, so to speak. Right.
Right.
And I think once people kind of experience that and realize that no man should, be beholden to someone else, and we should be self-sufficient, I think it'll change their paradigm, because they'll start focusing on like their businesses as like a real business, as opposed to like a side hustle or something like that. Right. And then like another kind of, shift is that it's like, again, like it sounds super cliche, but when you focus on, not your business and coming up with a solution to some problem the market has, right? So like, let's say like your coffee, maybe it's higher quality, it's for a specific niche, or Jeff's beard product. Remember, it's, it's not organic, but I don't know. I'm just saying, like, whatever market like you're picking, right? If you can find a solution to make something better in that market, you will be a wealthy person. Once you start focusing on like your side hustle, your income or whatever, and you start focusing on just solving a painful problem a market has, it's going to change your whole perspective on things. And I think by focusing on the market's problems as opposed to like your own income, you automatically improve your customer service, right? Because you're like, because like your whole vision is about helping someone else improve their life. So that's the biggest paradigm shift I think most people need to make, because most people learn from these, 18-year-old dropshipping gurus, right? So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, to be honest, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, that pretty much goes with anything. You increase your customer service, your money comes in.
Yeah, and sorry if that was like a little bit kind of all over the place again. I've been on my Moscow Mule, so
on the surface it might have looked like it was kind of all over the place, but I think at the end of the day, it's like it goes back to what Daniel was talking about and what we were talking about earlier, where it's like,
yeah,
find something that people want or need and give it to them, and give it to them in a way that makes them understand that it is something that they want or need. Like, it's the customer service thing is kind of one of those things that prevents buyer's remorse, right? Like, you give someone a good product, then you follow up with them, you make sure they still like the product, see if there's anything you can do better, especially if it's a service-based business like what you're in, where like everything you can possibly do to make the client happier is going to return in a full circle back to you.
Yeah. And again, like for the second time, people are going to watch this and say, it's cliche. He doesn't really care about clients, but I do, because I know that, when you improve a client's life in any way, because again, like most business is just taking a client from where they are to where they want to be. So whether that's like a beard moisturizer that makes my skin less flaky, that's a transformational product. Whether it's a consulting service that helps a business owner go from working 20 hours, like 15 hours a day, to working 3 hours a day, having more time with his family, with his kids, etc. All your service or whatever is doing is helping them get from point A to point B, which is all focused on the client, right? So when you focus on the client, again, it transforms your business, how you view your clients, and it will make you a wealthy person. I mean, that's just a natural kind of association, or like a byproduct of that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and it's going to also sound super cliched, but you're not selling a product, you're selling happiness. You're selling
exactly.
satisfaction.
Peace of mind.
You're selling, contentment and like Nick said, peace of mind. I'm not selling beard balm. I'm selling the feeling that guy has when he looks at himself in the mirror in the morning and realizes how damn good his beard looks now. That feeling is what I'm trying to give him. And like you said, the more problems you fix for people, the bigger your bank account's going to get.
Definitely.
Exactly. Like it's one of those things where by focusing on your income, like, and this is a good thing that I learned a few years ago, is like most things in like this world, if you dream them, you can get them, right? Like if you dream of a better body, like you can work towards that. But like money is the one thing that if you dream of it, you can never really get it. Like that's just my opinion, right? Like if you say I want $10 million or like you hope to aspire to that, it's hard to get that. But if you say like I want to help 10,000 people improve their lives, there's a higher likelihood that you can get that as opposed to like the monetary goal, which is a little bit vague, right? That's just my opinion in this.
That's really interesting.
That's really good, because what's not directly on the surface of that statement that you don't want you want $10 million. And you can't quite dream that up, but you can dream of helping 10,000 people. Hell, the byproduct of helping 10,000 people just might be $10 million.
Yeah, it's just more tangible, right? Like, I mean, like that's why when I created like my agency, I was like, I want to help. I think it was like 1,000 financial advisors change their life. But what I didn't mention is that each one of those advisors would be paying me like $5,000, right? So like just like a natural kind of byproduct of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a very good point. Very good point. Very good way to think about it.
We're gonna have a highlight reel, and that one's going on it.
Yeah, definitely. I like that idea too, Jeff. I think that's a fantastic place to leave this at.
Absolutely.
awesome.
Unless you guys have anything else.
Ryan, thank you for coming on, man. I wasn't you were gonna agree when I reached out.
Yeah, man. No, awesome. I'm glad to be here. Like I'm always down to just come on. Like I used to be so against podcasts, but I'm like, you know what? They're super cool now, right? Like, because if even one person finds this conversation we had valuable, I mean, it's worth the hour, right? I mean, it's not even a question, to be honest.
I mean, well, this one's cool. I don't know about all the extras. Joe Rogan's okay, but he's no Unemployables.
Yeah.
So Ryan, how can people find you? Your company, everything.
Yeah, I would say just follow me on Twitter, at Ryan Holmer with 2 R's. It's probably the best way, to be honest. I'm pretty responsive in DMs, and I'm bad with it sometimes, but I try to answer them all. So yeah, if you have any questions, just fire them that way.
Right on.
Awesome, man.
Guys. Awesome.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon.
Become unemployable.